Welcome to Strung Out, the podcast that looks at life through the lens of an artist. Your host is the artist, writer, and musician, Martin Lawrence McCormack. Now, here's Marty.
Hey, welcome to Strung Out, and I am here with speaker Marcus Gentry, who has devoted a good chunk of his life researching and uh, respect. And respect is such a deep topic to probe, but since the last time we talked, it's been a lot of changes in our world.
Yeah, it has. It has.
And so today we're taking advantage of some balmy winter weather
Right.
to just sit out here in the relative warmth.
Beautiful weather, yep.
But
Take my phone out of the way so it doesn't interfere with what
Right,
we're doing,
right.
right? Okay.
we last talked before the new administration came,
We did it.
and
Before any of the plane crashes.
before the plane crashes, before a lot of turmoil. I have personally, I have a Canadian agent for my music, and I'm kind of embarrassed. But beyond that, so much of this has to do with, again, respect and the notion of boundaries.
Mhm.
So that's the first question I want to ask you: is respect and boundaries, are they interrelated? Is it something that when people crash other people's boundaries, whether it be a nation, whether it be a political party, whether it be just a guy on the street, why, first of all, does such a person feel they're entitled to do that? And how do you defend yourself? How do you respect yourself to have boundaries? Does that make sense?
Yeah, I think I understand the question, and I think it's a great question. So it begins, as always, I think, with respect for self.
Mm-hmm.
So the subject of boundaries, we can go a lot of different directions with that. So if you have respect for yourself, then there's certain boundaries that you want to set. If you have respect for other people, then there's certain boundaries that you'll consider not crossing, but you have to get to know
Mm-hmm.
who you are, know who they are, and what boundaries need to be established to maintain healthy relationships. I mean, there's some people that we may need to set boundaries up because they're toxic.
Mm-hmm.
Whether it's an individual or a company or business or whatever, you may recognize that they're toxic and you have to set boundaries for that. Uh, but I think it's important to consider what determines your boundaries. So some people's boundaries are set because of their core ethical values.
Okay.
And so no matter what society is doing or saying, their value says, I'm going to respect me and I'm going to respect you regardless of where you come from, where you live, how you worship, what you believe. Uh, if my core values and ethical standards says that, but if my standards are based on what I see on the news,
Mm-hmm.
if my standards are based on policy, then I will change with the weather. Or I'll
Right.
change every time there's a new signing of a new decree that I shouldn't like you anymore. And we see this. This is present in so many. It's present politically. It's present religiously. It's just present in a lot of areas. But again, since we describe or define respect as to relook at ourselves and relook at others, or just to relook, period, I think that's an investigation that some people aren't taking the time
Mm-hmm.
to make. Where am I? Because it's easy to just go with the flow,
Right.
go with what everybody else is doing. Well, what does the policy say? What does the group say? What does this organization say? What does the party say? I'm just going to follow that, and I don't have to think about my own value system. So that's kind of where I think that sits.
Well, you're saying a lot here, and the first question I have about that is, why now, after all the years of trying. I mean, we're in a smaller world.
Mm-hmm.
We're in a world of better communication. We're in a world where more people, I think, now have been educated as opposed to not being educated. But why such a dearth of respect?
Well, the statement that you made, I think, bears a deeper conversation, which is that we're in a world of better communication, but not necessarily better connections. So we can communicate with people on the other side of the planet
Right.
today with the greatest of ease, but have difficulty communicating with someone across from the dinner table
Mhm.
or in the restaurant
Right.
or from another country or from another value. So connection is something, and our desire to communicate without connection seems to be growing because technology is growing, and technology doesn't dictate that you have to have a personal connection or interaction. So just that skill alone
Hmm.
is being lost in a lot of ways.
So,
So you say, why now? I think in some ways we are evolving, technologically speaking, but declining in some ways socially.
yeah. Okay. That makes a lot of sense the way you just described that, because social media is a great example then.
It is.
Because I could put up, you know, I can put up pictures of me, having what would look like a nice vacation, let's say.
Mhm.
But I am not really connecting with anybody. What I'm doing is I'm just advertising my own, hey, look at me, I'm, I'm happy or whatever. I mean, it basically can become a false narrative. Is that what you're saying?
It can be. It becomes the highlight reel.
Okay.
And if people are only caught up in the highlight reel, then they don't know the backstory.
Hmm.
And most people aren't in terms of social media. If we move down that direction
Yeah.
of discussion
Just
with
as an
social,
example,
yeah,
I mean,
social
it's
media, yeah, people are more interested in quick responses, quick likes, and things of that sort, not necessarily knowing the backstory. So yeah, you can post your highlight reel. The sad part is that some people will base their whole life on someone else's highlight reel.
Hmm.
And they'll try to design something based on that, not knowing what they did to get to that place,
right.
not knowing that that thing that they saw or heard is an excerpt.
It could be a false narrative,
It could be
right?
that
I
false,
mean,
right? Could be that.
so and as a human species, it seems like we tend to lean toward the false narrative, in the sense that the grass is greener on the other side of the fence. Is that play into this notion of respect then, as far as being under assault by our falling away from connectivity? You use the word connectivity,
It is.
and connectivity is kind of what we're doing right now. You and I are
Exactly.
talking, we're
Exactly.
sitting, we're looking at each other, and that opportunity for people to have connectivity has been really kind of thrown under, to the wayside, right?
Right.
Is that
Yeah.
part of
Yeah.
the assault on respect?
It
Do you
just
want to call
seems
it that?
that,
Yeah.
that some of those things are just not as important, and that, again, definitions interferes oftentimes with the quality of relationships. So people will still define what they do as respect. They'll put it under that heading, but the definition that's being used today or the way it's being played out is very different
Hmm.
than what it used to be maybe some years ago or some time ago. So um, yeah, in one sense it's being pushed down. Another sense is just not as important. In another sense, it's just being redefined.
Hmm.
So someone can say, "Yeah, I respect you and I respect us, but I need to set these boundaries because of some superficial thing
Right.
that I believe, or some political um, posture that
Right.
I need to take," and that's the reason why I'm doing that.
Do you see a connection then between the current political turmoil in the world, really now? It just seems like everybody's on fire, um, and the fact that people are not engaging one-on-one. I mean, this seems to be a worldwide trend that people are not able to have the time. Is that? I mean, connectivity takes time, right? I
It
mean,
does.
it takes an investment of one's life and willingness to, on one level, maybe slow down. I mean, is that what you know? I mean, these things have been thrown out there, but people say, "Oh yeah, yeah, that's great, Marcus. You're right, but I'm too busy to sit down with Joe Blow and talk." Is that what's going on? Or
That is definitely a part of it. um, I often talk about the book, The Answer to How is Yes, and I use that oftentimes when I'm teaching classes
Mhm.
because it asks a question and it says that before, what it says is before we start talking about how to do something, how do I get more time, things like it says we have to say yes to a few things. And so
Okay.
one of the first things in his book, Peter Block is the author's name, he said that we need to do is ask ourselves how much of a desire to do something that we have. So our desire determines how much effort we're going to put into something.
Okay.
So if the desire is not there, it doesn't matter how much opportunity you have or how many opportunities you get, you're just not going to make the sacrifice. You're not going to do what's necessary because the bottom line, it's not that important. You don't have a desire. And I always say that a good way to test your desire or examine it or to respect it, relook at it, is to think about what you have done over the last 7 days
Okay.
in terms of building a connection with the people who you say are important.
Right.
Regardless of policy, regardless of anything. And if you can't really think of anything you did to build a connection, you probably don't have a strong enough desire to want to do it. So I don't think time itself is the culprit. I think desire, because when you want to do something, you'll find the time to make it happen. Because
Okay.
time is not going to change. We can't manage time. Time is not going to change. The only thing that we have control over is how we choose to prioritize those 24 hours that we have.
Okay. Let's take a little break here, and when we come back, we're going to talk a little more about that being able to say yes and creating the desire to communicate. And so you're with Marcus Gentry here, and we are talking about respect on Strung Out, the respect perspective. We'll be right back.
Rocky Mountain Express, coming home for good this time, home for good this time. What I need to show. If only it was that easy, I know. A magic charm made out of gold, a strong sword for me to hold, yeah, for me to hold. What I wanna be. Wanna feel it there inside of me. Patient as painting the Sistine ceiling, hot as a pot of fine Darjeeling, yeah. It takes courage to be courageous. Courage to be courageous, discouraging urgings of those pernicious, outrageous, so contagious. It takes courage to be courageous, courage to be courageous. vicious, pernicious, or vicious. Give them strength, love, prayer, good wishes. Prayers, good wishes. Yeah, yeah. No valor, no valor, no valor on some battleground. It's the daily skirmish where courage is found, yeah. Don't fall for the tricks, insidious. Stay grounded, stay suspicious, yeah. It takes courage to be courageous. Courage to be courageous. Discouraging urgings of those pugnacious. Outraged, outrageous, so contagious. It takes courage to be courageous. Courage to be courageous. Against the vicious, pernicious, or vicious. Give them strength, love, prayer, good wishes. Prayers and good wishes. Yeah, yeah. Resist, resist, resist the dwellers of the dim, who feast on rumor, drama, and whim. Their weakness is their love of pride. Your better angels are standing by your side, yeah. It takes courage to be courageous. Courage to be courageous. Discouraging urgings of those pugnacious. Outraged, outrageous, so contagious. It takes courage to be courageous. Courage to be courageous. Against the vicious, pernicious, or vicious. Give them strength, love, prayer, and good wishes. Love, prayer, good wishes. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
We're back, and we are back talking about the respect perspective, and I really like the direction we're going right now because this is something that you just talked about in the before we took a break about people around you. So we're not even talking like strangers; we're talking like family and friends.
Sure.
You know, and they always say, "What charity begins at home." Well, maybe respect does too. I was thinking to myself, like how much of a desire do I create in my own life to connect with people, and so let's expound a little bit on that.
Okay.
If people are not able to understand what connection really is, maybe that's the problem.
It could be. That could be
Okay.
a part of it. Sure, that could be a part of it. I like to think also a big part of lack of desire has to do with the lack of purpose
Okay.
or knowing the reason why. I mean, there are many books and movies, and many of the great teachers have talked about we have to have purpose
Right.
and meaning because purpose is the foundation that everything else stands on. So, even in terms of building healthy connections, and again, trying to figure out how to have a passion, one of the things that creates and fuels that passion is a purpose,
Okay.
a driving purpose, a strong reason why it's important that you make that connection. So, if you sit back and think about, okay, I want to connect with this person, whoever it is, um, even if it's somebody, like I say, of another country or another political party, if you really have a desire to want to do it, the question is, why is it important?
Okay.
Why is it important to build healthy relationships? Why is it important to build healthy connections? If that reason is strong, if you're thinking about it or you're talking to someone about it, and they can spell out 3 or 4 reasons. Well, the reason why I want to make this connection with this person
Mm-hmm.
is because of this, and I believe in that. And other than just general words, it's the right thing, or it's family, or it's friends, or we have the same last name, other than general categories, if your reason is strong, what it will do is create and fuel the passion. And
Okay.
so what I say is it's not cliche, but I say it this way: the purpose creates the passion to prepare to complete the process. Now I'll say that again for
Yeah, I
good
was just
measure,
going to
right?
ask you, please repeat that
The
for us.
purpose creates the passion to prepare to complete the process.
Okay.
So what that means is when you know why something is important, when that is so solid with you, you're going to be passionate about making it happen. Now you will prepare, you'll do what's necessary to complete the process, because building healthy connections and overriding policies that
Okay.
may conflict with your core values. And that's something that we talked about earlier: political policies and directives and things like that. To override that in your personal circle is a process. It's not a podcast. It's not a
Right.
PowerPoint presentation. It's not one sitting down, one conversation, and then that's it. It's a process, and you're not going to go through the process. You're not going to prepare to do it. You're not going to have a desire to do it if you don't know why it's that important. So that's where the digging in is such a critical piece.
When I hear you talking about this, I'm thinking about your classes
Sure.
and, you know, the people in your classes. How
Mhm.
do they respond to that when you say, you know, that purpose? You have to have the purpose, you know, in order to have the results. Is this something that is a revelation, or is it just a reconnection with something they lost?
Um, what I find most often is consistent with statistical studies,
Okay.
which is this. Um, Typically, only 10% of the population tends to be those who look to go deep versus wide, who tend to be the deal closers, the problem solvers, the decision makers. Only 10% of the population tend to do that in any given situation, generally speaking.
Okay.
70% of the population tends to continue to follow what's popular, familiar, and comfortable, regardless of new information that's been presented. If it's not familiar, if it's not what my friends are doing, if it's not popular, if I can't stay in my comfort zone,
Right.
not going to do it. 20%, no matter what you share, they say statistically tends to stay confused and not know why things happen. Yeah, I don't know how this keeps happening to me. I don't know.
Okay.
I'm in this situation again. So
Like the deliberately, or are, well, don't let me finish your sentence. So these are people that basically the world is
they think the world
obtuse.
happens to them,
Okay.
and
Got
they
it.
can't
Okay.
figure out. They end up in a same relationship. I
Okay.
don't know why this. I keep getting in these
Okay.
relationships. I don't know why I keep having these financial problems. I
Okay.
don't know why my health is declining. No matter what doctors say, friends say, or others share, it tends to stay confused. So that's, excuse me, that's consistent
Mm-hmm.
with what I see in my classes.
Okay.
So there's only a fraction of people, but as a speaker looking to inform and create information and opportunities, I am pleased with the one or two that may respond.
Okay.
I am pleased with the deeper understanding that it took me a while to get to, that my role is not to make someone grow or cause them to be awakened. My goal is to provide information and an opportunity, and to grow myself.
Okay.
Um, and have I spoken truth as I know it? Have I this not watered down? Have I tried to be considerate of myself and the people who I'm talking to and the environment that we're in and the process that it takes? So even with the fourth aspect of respect for, which is respect the process, I know the process of understanding and application comes with time.
Yeah.
So that's a matter of hearing something
Right.
and then processing what you just heard and then put it in perspective. How does this apply to my life? How can it apply? And now here's what I can do to take action. That's a process that may take a moment
Uh-huh.
or may take years.
Before we take a break, I'm assuming those are the 4 steps then?
Respect for self, respect for others, respect for the environment, and respect for process.
Okay.
Process.
And we're right now we're kind of walking around the process because so much of people don't understand that what you are teaching is teaching people how to understand that there is a process involved in becoming self-respecting and respecting of other people. So we're going to take a little break again. We're talking with Marcus Gentry, and Marcus Gentry can be reached at marcusgentry.com.
Yes. Yes.
And he gives classes all across the United States. This guy travels quite a bit, and for a very good reason. He's trying to get us all back thinking in terms of respect. And you are on the Respect Perspective, a series that we're going to be pursuing as we go into 2025. And boy, I think we need it.
We do. It's time.
Yeah, it's time. You're on Strung Out.
Hey, want to show your support of Martin's artist endeavors? Buy Me a Coffee is an online site that makes supporting Marty easy. In just a few taps, you can make a payment of any amount, and no account is needed. You can also decide to become an ongoing supporter. Go to martinmccormack.com and click on the words Support Martin. Let's help Martin keep it all caffeinated.
I'm back with my friend Marcus Gentry. Once again, we're just taking advantage of what is a beautiful winter day in
Isn't
Chicago.
It nice outside?
It is. I
Nice.
mean, it's supposed to go low tonight, and I know I keep saying, hey, the four steps, the 4 keys, and I know you outlined them just before we took the break, but I think it bears repeating again because I myself need to internalize them. Can you again state for people just the way you see the 4 steps of respect?
Okay, I can. Um, it begins with understanding respect as the foundation and the umbrella that everything is encased in and around. And that means to hold in high esteem, the word respect, but it also means to respect, to re-look at, to re-examine, or the author, I think Mark Adams, not positive that's the name of the author, has the book called Think Again.
Okay.
So it's about that. It's about rethinking, thinking again about respect for self.
Okay.
So much we can spend with that means
Right.
knowing who you are. You have to know who you are to be able to develop a respect, to re-look, to re-examine all aspects of your life, the older messages, the shadows that follow you, the beliefs and the habits that are practiced in you. Respect for self. Second one is respect for others. What does that mean? Do you have barriers that keeps you from looking or re-looking at someone who doesn't look like you, sound like you, walk, worship, practice, believe like you? Can you have respect for other people without trying to get them to conform to your way of thinking and living and being? Respect for environment. So we are respecting the environment. When it gets colder, we're going to respect it again by putting on the proper clothes.
Yes.
So it's one thing about respecting the environment. When you watch any of the survival programs, those who survive are those who understand what the environment is
Right.
and adapt appropriately to that environment.
Got it.
So we can talk about respecting our physical environment. If we don't take care of our physical environment, our home, our property, our material things, then it won't serve us well later. But we can also look at respecting or relooking at our social environment.
Okay.
What is changing in our political climate?
Right.
That becomes something to be concerned about when you operate in a grocery store, in traffic, when you're moving along and you have to interact with people. So respecting that our social climate is changing.
Okay.
How after the pandemic, the patience or lack of patience and compassion seems to be fading, and there's a different climate
Mm-hmm.
that's present. So respecting the environment overall. And the last one is respecting the process. So um, everything is not uh, a quick fix,
Right.
not microwavable. So things take a process to be able to create and develop into what it is that we want it to be, if it's going to be sustainable for a
Right.
long time.
I love that. It's not microwavable. That's such a good analogy,
Yeah.
because we, as a society, I think it's safe to say that we want everything done yesterday,
Right now.
right now. And so my question, and thank you for repeating that, because that helps me, formulate the process. You trust the process, but that it's interesting. That's the last thing, because you have to kind of get through all those
You do.
other steps.
You do.
I think a lot of people watching this and seeing you talk about this, it's going to say, okay, Mr. Gentry, what does this eventually get me? If I follow all 4 steps, am I going to win the lottery? What is the benefit for me? We live in a world where people are like, hey, um, it's easier to go to the opposite. I can walk all over you and disrespect you, because that's not gonna affect me. But there is something there, right?
Yeah. In terms of benefits you're talking about?
Yeah, and benefits, and also the maybe the fact that not to get into karma, but let's uh, this is going to extend this last section a little longer, folks. So just be ready. Um, what is the benefit out of this? I'm being facetious when I say, hey, am I going to win the lottery? It's my respecting somebody's, where they are in the world, and, relating with a person as a human being. Where has that gotten a lot of people in the past? It seems like human nature is, always so willing to disrespect.
Yeah. Well, the outcome is not always something that you can put on a table that everybody can look at to be visible. It's most important who you become
Okay.
in the process, whether you can become the greatest version of yourself possible and override limitations that you might have, opening up possibilities for things that will allow you to live your best life, whatever that needs to look like.
Okay.
Doesn't mean that you need to look like anybody else's life, but to find a way to live a life that when you look in the mirror, you feel good about yourself, that you don't have a lot of restrictions, limitations because of past messages or information or misinformation that you've been given that you didn't dissect,
Sure.
that you're living out, so that you can be the best version of yourself. When you truly realize, I feel, truly who you are and what you're capable of, the possibilities are limitless. And the idea is so that you can be at peace with yourself.
Okay.
To be at peace with yourself and the life choices that you have made, and you've not done anything to particularly harm others or the environment, ideally. A life of peace and contentment.
Okay.
A life of peace and content. And again, that can vary from one extreme to the other. I was in, you already said we was going to run a little longer, right?
Yeah.
I was in
Give us a good example.
I was in the health club once, and I was talking with another guy, and the guy was saying that his father had just passed, and our fathers passed around the same time,
Okay.
at the age of 99.
Wow.
And he said that um, his father's practice was to drink a shot of cognac or something like that every day
Uh-huh.
and smoke a cigar.
Hmm.
My father's habit was to not drink at all and to drink water every day and try to eat healthy and live. And they both lived to be 99. So they walked very different paths as far as it, but they both made it to 99. They both lived a life of peace and contentment
Okay.
for themselves. And so I think it's important to know what your definition of satisfaction is.
And that is where we're going to leave this podcast, because I think we should pick that up into the next podcast, is the idea and the perspective of being able to come to terms with what your goals are, you know, realistic goals for oneself. I would like for you to expound a little bit on that, because even, you know, I have difficulty with that. I think, like, well, you know, I am now 61 years old, and at this stage in my life, what should I be doing? And maybe you folks out there are also of the same opinion, or think the same thing. You know, at this point in my life, what does it mean to be at peace with oneself? How do I say, okay, I've attained this peace? And luckily for us, we have the expert in the field here. We have Marcus Gentry. And again, I want to say marcusgentry.com. If you have questions, you can send it along.
To respect at marcusgentry.com.
Yeah, respect at marcusgentry.com. And that's the email address.
Yes.
And if you want to have Marcus come and talk, part of the reason we're doing this is to get this message out to the masses, and have Marcus reach and change more people's lives in such a positive fashion. That's it for now on Strung Out. We're going to be following up with another podcast, diving into respect even further. So we'll see you back here on the porch.
Very good.
Bye for now.
Thank you for listening. For more information about this show or a transcript, visit martinmccormack.com. While there, sign up for our newsletter. See you next time on Strung Out.
It's all so wrong, this pain we feel makes no sense at all. A swan song was a part of the deal, was no good.